Hello and welcome back. It is Star Decoding with Kae Lockhart and Jennie Friedman, and we are so excited to have you today as we unleash the fifth episode of we're doing celebrities and we're decoding their charts, human design and astrology. Tell us, please, who we're doing today.
This was exciting. It's hard to find the final position, the rarest of all the human designs, a reflector. So it took the two of us, and we make a pretty good team. But what was interesting is Jenny suggested this person, and I got super excited, having no idea that this reflector and this person could fit the mold. I've done her astrology before, as an example. I've taken a course with her before. It is the one and only Teal Swan.
Yay!
Who? Yes, not a typical celebrity or success story. This is
Right.
one who is a spiritual educator in the art of taking your light and your shadow and integrating them so that you get to be one soul and persona and identity instead of a cart being pulled by two horses that are splitting through good, bad, right, wrong, blame, shame, all the things we're trying to compartmentalize about ourselves. She is teaching through some very unorthodox methods how to get back to being one design and using that. So
Love it. So
let's,
we get
yeah,
to
without
sneak a peek at
wasting.
her. Exactly. So go ahead, start us off with the chart, with the
Sure, and I will
astrology.
I will share that I became aware of Teal's work when there was the nation's largest metaphysical bookstore in Chicago called Transitions Book Place. So that is how at first I came across her on a shelf. And then fast forward a number of years, YouTube, fast forward a number of years, she did a Facebook challenge, how to truly love yourself. And you'd think, oh, great, let me just add on good things and dopamine and her. No, she said, we're going to swim through all the things you don't love about yourself. And this is going to be a subtractive process and an acceptance process. And it's going to feel a little radical to your ego, and it's going to feel like dessert to your soul. And I thought, I understand this. I get this. I had a great time in the coursework, but we are talking about the person today. So let's begin.
Great.
And here we go. Everyone can see this. So we have Teal Swan, born in June. That obviously makes her Gemini. And you've known our cadence for a while. We are starting with the big three. We're starting with the hand that they're dealt with when they come here in this lifetime. Teal's big three, and follow along with the chart. We're going to look at the ascendant first. Cancer ascendant. How does she express in the world? How does she see the world being expressed? It is Cancer. Cancer as a sign is going to be nurturing, it's going to be sensitive, empathetic, and what I do like about Cancer is at their best, they can really embrace an interesting flow state. And we'll come back to that comment because that's key in the work that she does, is it's very lucid. The next of the three, we're going to jump over here and look at the moon sign. Moon is in Aquarius, and that is going to create somebody whose emotional sense and home within herself in the sign of Aquarius, there's going to be an intellectual approach, a collective concern, very humanitarian, and there, because it's in the seventh house, this is where I feel home is in dynamics and relationships with others. So we're setting up somebody who is more of a we versus me kind of personality. And last but not least at all is the sun over here in Gemini. So we've talked that you're not your sun sign. That is your playbook and your methodology in life. It is not a personality. You can personify these things, but it's not you. It's your pathway. It's the thread or arc from your beginning to your end. And in Gemini, this is going to create curiosity, adaptation, wit, intellect, and communication. And if you've ever listened to anything she said, she is a master of articulation. So we'll start with those three. And then, of course, like the others, so we stay consistent in our series, even though this is our final one as far as introducing the types, which are the strongest houses in the formation of who she's becoming before adulthood? We have the fourth house. And what's interesting is maybe this is why I get along with her. I have my moon in the seventh, and I also have Pluto right here in the fourth.
Oh,
Pluto in the fourth house. And let's take a look. If we go to the sidebar here, Pluto, Teal is a member of the 29 Club, that 29th degree
oh, look at
of
that.
encompassing and tension and here for the collective. Pluto is a desire to transform in Libra, wanting balance and harmony, but a full destruction of what home and family could or will feel like and experience. I had my Pluto in fourth, and it was the Tower card in tarot. It pulled that Jenga piece out of the whole structure and whoosh. Teal was somebody who was born into a very religious family who ended up joining a cult when she was young, and that led to a lot of assault. And so we will talk about where else that shows up in her chart when she starts to integrate that. If you can take that dark and process it into your light, you probably should be teaching and educating people. But like her, that Pluto is the pulverization, the dissolving, the destroying of that container of home, family, roots, and oftentimes mother. While
Mm,
her mom may not have put her in this situation, it would be natural for a child to want some mother protection from situations. So, without knowing the full story of the relationship to the parent units, this is what we do know. She did have an investigation into this, and the case was closed for her due to their lack of evidence. Hmm. So that would set some alchemy around home into motion, to say the least. We also have the fifth house, which technically should be play, creativity, romance. The fifth house can also be how you academically perform. Now, the third house is your formative years as far as learning and socializing with your classmates. The fifth is how you radiate what you are learning and performing at. And academics is one way we get performative. This is potent. This is a fascinating chart for an astrologer because the two challenge planets are stacked and the two charm planets are stacked in her particular natal chart. What we're looking at right now is in a very tight relationship with each other is Saturn on the fifth and Mars. So I'm sorry, Saturn on the fourth, right before the fifth, and then Mars.
right.
What does that mean? It helps continue the person here with Pluto who wants to break curses, be free from family secrets, and go on an ancestral journey where that gets reversed back to sender. Here, it gets a little more niche, is Mars is your planet of passion and ambition in a house of creation. This was going to be somebody fearless, and this is going to be somebody extremely determined. What do we do
Mm,
with that Saturn in four? There's the key to problems with the father figure because it's in the fourth house. And what this does is it creates the lack of being modeled by a parent into personal discipline. So she built herself all by herself. She did all of her own stunts around having patience, getting refined, structure, organization, learning, achievement. To say the least, it's a lot. And with both of these signs in Scorpio, it was going to be a very penetrating experience for her and it's going to create her natural potency. This is somebody whose magic is not watered down to in the least bit. And scooting over here, on a lighter note, if that's relative, we have the South Node and we have Uranus. And those are both in a good placement. I like the fact that the South Node is in the fifth house because the relationship to past life with Uranus being so close is almost like having your like a clean slate. Like the
Oh,
scoreboard has been wiped because Uranus is the planet of plot twists and unconventionalism and revolution. I also have my Uranus in the fifth house. I do art very differently. Hers being so close to her past life and her comfort self of this is who I want to be as my default is too scrambled. So it's almost a huge opportunity without too much limits for her. She's only going to go forward and not backwards. So to me, that's an interesting quest to have with yourself. Last, let's jump over to the 12th house. We have a cluster of planets here. We have that because they're all in the 12th house, this will be drawn to the soul and spirituality. There could be romantic difficulty, but that Sun-Venus conjunction is going to give her a sense of beauty as a person existing in the world. She's easy to look at. She comes across in a very alluring manner. Her speech is enhanced and lovely. It's just the interesting polarization of what she's teaching conceptually. We'll get into where that is. I like this for her that she has this strong challenge stack and then this strong charm stack in her chart. Strong connection to the subconscious realm. And if you've ever listened to her talk, she has eight, yes, I said that right, eight planets in air. This is somebody who is going to be a mental conduit, not necessarily psychic, but definitely a channel to the highest version of mind. And there's a very interesting nuance between are they channeling spiritual information from beyond, or is their mind just such peak resonance that what comes through is already crystallized into wisdoms and truths? And I would
yeah.
say pretty much that. So those are the major homes. 12 can be difficult because it is the furthest from your sense of self and ego, and it can hold the house of hidden enemies. And I would say that she's definitely brought people close to her that have flipped on her. With that Mercury in the 12th house, media has come for her and been the Trojan horse of, hey, here's your present, war inside. So she has been very instrumental as an expression, as a being, as a leader in her own industry of I got the lesson through osmosis. I watched you rise from that destruction. And so I can actually see that as a micro lesson in my life of, oh, be careful, pay attention, and if you need to reboot, she follows something that Teal has done. All right,
Nice.
I'll stop sharing and hand it over to you, Jenny.
That is so wild with all that air. Wow.
So much
Well,
hair.
she's also, a reflector. So in human design, a reflector doesn't have, share her chart. They don't have any defined energy centers. So you can see here, all of her centers are undefined.
That's crazy. I didn't know it would look like that.
Hmm. And she's got an open and undefined head, and she has an open and undefined will center. It's just
Hmm.
fascinating because a lot of us our authority has to do with, like I'm an emotional authority, so I have to ride that wave. If you're a sacral authority, like you got to check in with your gut, those
Mm.
kinds of things. Reflectors have to wait for a moon cycle. So it's about 28 days. If they're going to make decisions in their life, they need to wait 28 days before they really come into their own true sense of like where it will level it, like this is the right way for me. Because they pick up everything. So if you remember me saying, when you see a defined center, those are energies you're pushing out into the world, and undefined centers, you're picking up energy from around the world. Well, when you have only open centers, like, or undefined centers, then you're just picking up from everybody everywhere.
Oh man, that sounds like a
Yeah.
purification or recycling plant.
Yeah, right. So and you have to wait 28 days for the dust to settle, for things to kind of, she's picking up everything along the way and then having to kind of allow it time. Some will fizzle out, some will stick, kind of thing. Like in 28 days, if all of us waited 28 days to make decisions, we probably, make wiser decisions.
Or if you're me, you'd lose your mind with with the superpower of impatience. I get a lot done.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool. They also have like, so when she is in her natural best, highest self, she's going to feel surprised, like, wow, that worked out or something, right? Like she's going
Hmm.
to be like, oh, like didn't see that coming kind of surprise. Um, I would think delight, like surprise and delight versus being disappointed. And
It's
they can,
interesting. In podcasts, she can embody a very merriment kind of thing when you've handed her something amusing that she, it was pleasantly unexpected.
yes, that's the surprise. That's the surprise. It's not shock and awe surprise. It's more like, oh, wow, this is wonderful, kind of a thing, versus being disappointed. So it's just totally different. But it says, you wait for a lunar cycle. That's her strategy. That's what she needs to do to make the most aligned decisions. So, with that in mind, let me share a couple things about her with you guys. So, you were looking at the big four. I will say that when I look at like her unconscious Jupiter and her conscious Jupiter, they're the same energy of the gate of the fighter. And so she's got this purposeful fighter energy going on that is
Hmm.
in both her community is like this and her greatest rewards in life are like this, but on both sides of the chart. So in both unconscious and personality, they're both there, kind of offering her different. It's the same energy but in a different way, so the action here has to fight for things that have meaning and purpose, perseverance, making meaning, struggle, and being discerning, which is everything she does, right? Her primary action is to fight for things that have meaning and purpose. And then
Hmm.
she also has, like if we look in her, well, I can say that. Well, no, I'll go ahead and say. If we look at like her radiance code, like where she radiates the most, where you would say, oh, I know her, right? Many see her as being compassionate with herself and others, and she teaches how to be compassionate. It's the key for overcoming suffering, and that there's a willingness to see the humanity in yourself and others. And
Hmm.
from that empowered place, it's about harnessing empathy during emotional crisis and soothing unnecessary suffering. So she identifies that there's suffering, but you know, it's she's going to tell you probably it's how you look at it. It's a choice. Is one of the things she kind of says. I've never taken a course of her or anything, but her she's the right angle cross of Eden. And
Interesting. I could, you
yeah,
know what? That's an interesting archetype. I find her extremely graceful, not just physically and mentally, but also emotionally and spiritually.
yeah,
And a very unusual type of soldier.
she's got this. So she has caution in her four big things in human design are caution in communication. So
Hmm.
she's very intentional. She's very purposeful. She chooses her words. Like you said, all that air energy is all that wisdom and all the words.
Yeah.
And flow of ideas. She is not lost on ideas and conflict and crisis. So it sounds all gooey and awesome, except that it's really about that conflict and crisis thing. So she's potent, helping others navigate complex emotional landscapes and emerge with greater understanding and compassion. And she's also like very big on thoughtful communication, like be discerning, use your brain here, um, which is interesting. Her dharma is to use conflict as a doorway into inner peace. So,
Hmm.
when the shitty things happen, it says, she understands that individual emotional stability and clarity create stability and clarity in relationships. Like you can't go seeking for the thing that you feel you want. You have to create that within yourself. And she tells you exactly probably how to do that by looking at the conflict in your life and what you can then be the meaning maker and make a better meaning for everything. Like,
Yeah.
when I think of that, I think about with my own dad, like what I did with his suicide. I just made it be like, it was kind of a gift for me. Now, I did not think that in the first 10 years, but 30 to
Mhm.
40 years later, I'm like, that actually did me good, right? But I don't have that particular energy she has, but I think she helps people that are in this, like, there's no other way to look at this but shitty. And she's going to say, yes, there is.
That's what it's almost like you do know. It's almost like you do know her.
Yeah.
And it's funny you bring up the topic of, people taking their lives is one of the ways that she got to be polarizing, even though she's a unifier. And she says, I'm here to show you everything A to Z in all of your humanities. So if you like what I say and you hate what I say, and you like me and you hate me, she said, all of it. We're not, this recipe uses every food on the planet. That's who I am. I am the great sum total of whatever you could possibly think or feel. One of the things that is a little unconventional, and psychologists have a hard time with this, and people who are in fear states just, oh, how dare you? It's the morality complex. It's making it wrong instead of seeing if it's right for you. If you have thoughts of ideation, she has said, set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit with it, play it out. How would it go? She said, once you exhaust your pathway to your own end, you will naturally turn back and choose your own life. But if you're always going to be, I can't feel this, I can't think this, I'll be so bad if I do, the guilt of leaving people behind, she's trying to liberate you from all of that fantasy by try
Mm.
making it a reality, and you'll go right back to your actual reality. I thought that was brilliant, not just for that topic, but in general.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
have watched her take a 28-day pause. And what's fascinating is she's a Cancer rising. I think Johnny Depp is a Cancer. And both of them, when they had that attack, all of us with our attention deficit and our dopamine hits, once we saw them get struck in the media lens, like, oh, they're not responding. It must be true. Oh, no, no, no. Teal went, go let this die down. I have my answer. Ready to hear it? So when a documentary was being filmed on her and they edited it to be very unflattering, she had her own people loyal to her educational system also filming, and she put up all the clips of, and this is what they took out here at 17 minutes into the, it was almost like she was a court reporter, and that's
wow.
very Gemini. I've got your details and you're keeping them out. She, and you have to be a personality like me, is you either want to hear zero sides of an argument or you want to hear both. And that is a very Gemini thing, is
Yeah.
why should your version of me exist without my version of me? And she's scary bright.
Yeah. I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah. It's cool. Do you
Well,
have
thank
anything
you.
else in the chart?
Let's move on to the second act of Teal Swan's life. Let me put
Okay.
her chart back up. Sharing. Here we go. And ta-da. So once we have Teal as an adult, we start moving into other houses that aren't such big players in that formative and self-development phase. Let's move into her sixth house, which I love because that's where it's key for a lot of people who are sacred servants. What's going on in the sixth house? Well, it's in Sagittarius, and we have Neptune and Jupiter, another one of the charm planets. Both luminaries are always going to be charm. When you have your sun or moon, those are always going to be light
You mean
bearing planets.
oh, in
Oh,
Capricorn.
no, we're in the house. She's got Sagittarius on the sixth, so her way of being of service is going to be broad and
Oh,
expansive and wisdom based.
Okay.
Planets are in a different sign, but the
I
sign on
see.
the house. So how the house
Gotcha.
is
The
flavored, the area
sixth
of
house
life.
is both. Gotcha.
Ah, let's take a look. Neptune is on a 0 degree, another critical degree that we haven't talked about. And it is the beginning, the genesis. It is for her. If the 29 is for the collective, the 0 is for you. Having Neptune, a planet of imagination, intuition, illusion, possible delusion, in that house of how can I handle the details? How do I have routines? How do I do my work before career? This is how I labor. It's interesting because it's also in retrograde, which means this is an inside job for her to figure out. She's not going to get it out of doing it in the outer world. So I
Mm.
find that a fascinating placement. And she's also got Jupiter right here. So expansion in Capricorn, that is going to be long game is the strong game. Saturn refines and restricts and purifies. As much as she may want to hit that gas pedal, this is the brake going, here's the speed limit. This has been somebody who mastered themselves over a decade. And if you even look at the voicing that she has in her first book versus how she speaks now, it is as like next octave as an instrument. It's pretty fun and fascinating. And where Jupiter is going to give her, where it's going to bring her luck, is in the area of being of service to others. So it's almost as if she knew exactly who she was when she came through because she started doing this at such an amazingly young age. From there, we've talked about the moon being in the seventh house, and this is important, is the natural, nurturing, caring, maternal energy is in that section of life called relationship.
Mm.
And this is somebody who Tony Robbins has his own approach to how to get to people who aren't, in sync on the same page. Hers is a much more watery version of it. It's a lot more, let me bring you both back to your consciousness around each other. Whereas Tony says, well, let's take away the stories we're telling about each other. Hers is very additive. That's what the moon does, is it nurtures, it helps you through your cycles. It's here to grow you and be fertile in that sense. Let's get into the last two houses that I find very interesting in her free will years. We have something new as far as a symbol for a few of you based on our other talks. We have the part of fortune. This is a minor placement. This is not one of those planets that most people know about, but this is how we get to experience abundance, and not just in the form of money. Where is Teal's happiness going to be? Where is she going to feel surplus and enoughness as an experience? It is going to be in the unconventional approach to transformation for the collective. And what I really love is she gets her riches out of working with your unseen values yet. She lives for that come to my side of the awakening. And
I
so
think
that
I
is,
have this too in mine.
do you?
I think so.
Wouldn't that be fun if we all had something like that in common? No, obviously that's one
I
of
think
my
my
great
power of
motivators.
fortune's in the yeah, I think it's in the eighth house. That's interesting.
So the eighth house is your deep transformations. You have to go into your underworld of here are my taboos, here are my fears, here are having to rely on other people, here are my vulnerabilities, and what is she doing with it? It's also an Aquarius, the collective. We keep
Mm,
coming back to that word because it keeps showing up everywhere we look in her houses.
right.
And then here's the fun one that comes back to the origin story with Lilith in the ninth house in Pisces. The ninth house is representing your higher learning, your wisdom, your potential religion. Lilith is the shadow self. Lilith is the taboo. Lilith is the scarlet letter of society rejects this, even though it's your normal. And her
Mm,
Lilith in the ninth, right there is that stamp of, did you grow up overly religious? That might have been normal for you, but to the rest of us, that's contagious. Get that away from us. We thumbs down. Once she
Wow.
gets away from that environment, how does that show up for her as an expression? Once you take the power and get autonomous with it or sovereign with it, or decide I want some agency around this instead of everyone tells me how to be around it and I'm done repressing it. This is interesting because this is somebody who's going to challenge the norms of higher learning and spirituality and the idea, the structure of what what is religion even? Is your version the best version? Is it true? Here I am. Let's pressure test it. If it blows out, you might need to rebuild. And that's where people, again, are very polarized around her is, "Arr, I really liked keeping my false beliefs safe. Now you've made them not accurate and I have to do work." And then other
Hmm.
people go, "I'm drowning in this unworkability. Please say something to get me to shore because I don't like the sea anymore." And that's one thing I have a lot of respect for her in regards to her spiritual educations.
Very
All
cool.
right. And so that's the end of the second act on Teal. What else can you tell me about her human design?
So I love that you're calling it the first act, second act, and all that because that is, we go over her profile lines. Okay. So she's a 4-6. And four just, I mean, a four in the first number, right, is how she sees herself. So she sees that she's an opportunist. She's making the best out of what happens. She's, a natural marketer. She's a natural networker. She's a natural um, person who's going to find opportunities, make opportunities, right? But other people see her as the role model. And I'll tell you this, these are just, they're like natural opportunists, but also late bloomers. And so it's
Mm,
usually after 50 years old when they actually become the role model. See, she's young. And so it's interesting for her to have such a high visibility right now. Because typically you'll see with a 6 from, well, this is all sixes. If you've got a 6 in your chart somewhere, this is what this is about. It's like from 0 to 30, you are kind of like experimenting and you're kind of like a 3 in human design where you're just like trying different things. I always call it like in the I Ching, you're like off at college, right? You're not even
yeah.
trying anything in the house. You're like in the big world doing crazy stuff and really throwing stuff against the wall, see what sticks. And once you hit 30, between 30 and 50, you start to go, I see a lot of things that didn't work. And you'll tell people why it didn't work. That's part of what you're doing here as a 3. But you start to hone in. And that's that late bloomer thing. Like at 50, by I would say in the next few years, we're actually going to see where she'll probably end up. I know she's a speaker and an author and so accomplished already. She's, I would say she's probably just getting started
Oh, I love that.
because, yeah, she's got, she's 41 this year. And so she's going in, I looked at her perfection chart. She's got Jupiter's a time, like this is a big year. I don't know. I'd have to look at her numerology but I bet next year we're going to start to, and the next, I'd say 4 years, she's going to be changing. And around 45 years old to 50, like you start to hone in on specific, this is where my specialty or my passion is or something about it. And in the I Ching, you're on the roof of the house. There's a 6. You come off the roof and you actually, I always say like it's like Jesus energy. Like you're coming down to be amongst your people. It's not leading from a place of I'm your authority. It's leading from it's working for me. It can work for you. Let's do this. And the role
Yeah.
model that way versus a 5 that's like the visionary leader that people will follow. She's more like she'll have lots of people who want to follow her, but because they're kind of feel that they're with her in her efforts.
That's her audience is when you watch how they walk around her, they seem to be in fellowship. They seem to be, no, we're all on the same page.
It's a
There's no
it's
hierarchy
very
here.
we energy. It's not
Energy.
hierarchical.
I
Yes.
love that.
And so as a 4-6, you would feel like she could be at 41 years old for her to be, that's what I'm saying. I can only imagine what she's going to be doing in the next 10 years. We will see her really probably take off in a really bigger way if it's possible. And I think she's already a big deal.
If we look at the fact that Jupiter is in Cancer right now and she's a Cancer rising, she is having her sense of self expanded. Next year, it will be her emotional and financial security. The next year, it will be her socializing. And the next year, it'll be back to home. She's going to have Jupiter go right over that Pluto. And it will be interesting. The next 4 years could be, it could be a really good streak for her. I'm hoping to have a really good streak. My rising is not Cancer, but as a 29-degree Gemini, you move the needle that much, and it applies to me too. I'm
Yeah,
definitely having an expansion year for who I am, and I hope next year is my resources, including
yeah,
self as a resource. So
right.
I'll just
She's
have
also
to I'll just
got,
have to write her and say, you want to be star pen pals? You want to do this
right.
together?
Yeah. I mean, she also has a son the same age as mine. So it's interesting because I think to myself, 19 years old, next year, 20. So she's, that's where you change out of mothering and into, she's going to be more free to probably do more travel or I don't really know. But I
Yeah,
can just imagine it's going to look different, really different the next 3 or 4 years probably. And then she's going to settle into something that's really going to stratus, stratosphere
I
rocket.
love it. Oh, I'm now, and you know me with time and my impatience. Do I have to wait 3 years to see this? But it is an interesting launch and pushing out of the nest when anyone turns 20 because societally, they're not a teenager anymore. Your teen started at 13 when they were still a kid. They've finished that rite of passage. They're
Yeah.
20 now. And it's time to release a little more and release a little more. So I get that.
Yes. Yeah. So
Perfect.
I thought it was also interesting that you were talking about the 28-day thing that like, yeah, that's her, that's her thing, 28 days.
Mhm.
And she's gonna feel more direction, more secure and more sure of certain of taking choice, making choices and following through on them. And while they're the late bloomer people, they're powerful leaders. So, she's only getting better.
Great. I'm here for it. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that we talk about this moon thing, we talk about the lunar cycle, we look at her rising sign, which is Cancer, and moon and lunar is its natural ruler. We look at where it is in her chart in the seventh house of relationship and balance, and in a sign of Aquarius where it's about humanity and about the collective. It's almost like we knew all this information and designed her instead of she's designed and all the information supports it. It's really fun. This is a great one to do.
I know, right? And the fact that you know, reflectors are so rare. I don't remember the exact percentage. Is it
I
2%?
read
Like
1%.
it's I was gonna say it's just super, super rare. I've only done charts for maybe three or four, and 400 charts, I've only done it 3 or 4 times. It's
I've
very,
never done a
very rare.
29-degree Pluto. I've thought, oh, just when I thought my home got burnt to the ground, so you have to go and make a whole new metals blend and an alloy. What was hers like? And then you find out. Like, that's a rebuild of home. I grew up in a cult where, being assaulted was normalized.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know.
And for her to have a sense of home and
Yes.
really fight for it, and
Yes. And all
and
that fighting
Mars is
energy
in,
is for the good fight. Like it's for peace. It's for inner peace.
mhm. And
How you
her
come
fight
home
for
to your own
Mars,
self.
she will fight for transformation. She is going to flip that into something unrecognizable and useful and better, no matter what.
Yeah. So you can hate on all you want, you guys. You can hate on her, but she's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
pretty amazing.
Pretty
Uh,
amazing.
All
I think
right, you
she's
ready to
just,
see the final act?
yeah,
You
yeah,
ready to
yeah,
see
for
how she
sure.
goes?
Yep.
Okay, let's go back to sharing this. Pop. Okay, so to recap, we have this unconventional partnering for humanity's purposes. We jump up to embracing transformation with innovation and humanitarianism and a bit of rebellion. We hop over here is releasing and rejecting dogma and being that kind of faux heretic by poo-pooing on something so, heretic-ish.
Yeah, right,
We're not, the country was built on cult people getting kicked out, and then what do? We come here and we make cults. So kind of
right.
strange, kind of didn't get the memo the first time, but whatever. It's
Still a
America's
work in progress.
it's America's origin story, and we have a hard time giving up our formative years because then you have to go to your transformative or your, unforming of all of that. Let's take a look at the 10th house here in Aries. Interesting. I don't know too many people with 10th house Aries careers, but this is somebody who's going to embrace independence, courage, ambition, assertion, and is going to have an identity-based self-brand as their career. They are the career. It's not, I'm Kay and I go do jewelry. I'm Teal doing Teal as career.
Yeah,
And it's
right.
interesting that it's so Siamese in that way. We look at the midheaven is all right, as you graduate out of the highest point in your chart, where you are in your most public reputation. Now you start to use that as your springboard, as your bridge into your North Node, into your purpose and your fate, and where you haven't gone before, what you're really here for. And
Yeah,
midheaven in Aries is going to be natural leader and not afraid to start a fire. You may think it's for worse. She's promising it's for better. She's getting you out of your rut and you're stuck, and she is the burn the fields and let better grow. Take the building down, put a new, safe structure on top of it. This is extremely, I'm going to say it's a little brave, is to accept this part of your design is not for the faint. And I'm sure she'd be absolutely miserable. What is a reflector when they're in their not self?
disappointed.
Well, I would think that'd be an understatement. I can't imagine after what she got out of to walk the rest of your life in a state of constant disappointment. But there's going to be some risk taking. There's going to be, I'll be fearless whether I know it or I don't know it. I don't need facts. I will initiate. That's the beauty of an Aries midheaven is, you know, let me F around and find out.
Right.
Let me just go do this. And then my process in this risk taking is going to
And that's where
unfold.
you see a three become a six. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like you go from the effing around to then you find it out and you're you're good.
excellent.
Hmm.
And then guess what? Here we are in the North Node. But is it oh so simple? Not for Teal. Let's talk about the North Node first. Let's talk about where it's placed, and then let's talk about what is so close in an orb to it. A
Mm,
North Node in Gemini is going to be a bridge to community. This is somebody who is going to pull people together in communication and community through writing, teaching, and talking to a wide audience because it's in the 11th house called Hey Society. I will do this for you. I will do this in the organized collective way, not just the collective around the whole planet, but the last little bubble before we go world. That would be the 12th house. But it's bigger than we. It's not quite world. It's still a little humanized in there. And
mm,
I really love that because she is a writer. She is a speaker. Picked that she picked that up and marched with it early and consistently in her existence. However, however, what's this little guy right here? The circle with the K on top, like
hi, Ron.
some bizarre little key. Chiron. This is your fated wound right on top of your destiny.
Mm,
Oh, so what does that look like for anybody, but specifically Teal? There is going to be a profound discovery and healing around her ideas first. These aren't just let me talk and then burn myself for other people. This is a methodical, and you use the word discerning process. This is somebody who is going to say, I got hurt around the collective. I'm going to unhurt around the collective. So I'll go through the wound twice. And to
Mm,
me, that goes right back to that sixth house of sacred servant. She's got some big stuff going on in there. This is how group leadership is built. She probably creates other sub leaders and doesn't want to be the one to the many. This is someone who
right.
goes, no, no, no. Please all learn the language I'm speaking and then speak amongst yourselves. Because
Yes.
if you push me out of community, I'll have to go back into my wound that happened to me when I was growing up. And I'm here. If I'm going to alchemize anything, I'm handling my Chiron because it's right on top of my purpose. And that's huge.
Yeah.
Her biggest thing, because the Chiron is on top of the North Node, her design, her destiny is I will show you how and where you self-reject as a peoples, not Jenny and Kay and you and you and you. It's like you're all the same. This is what connects all of you together as a human race. And
Mm,
allow me to show you how and where you reject yourself so you can come back home and be one and we can take that light and dark and stop using those words and you're one. I think this is just genius and fascinating.
it is so genius and so fast.
Can you imagine being designed like this and getting that job done? Woo!
Yeah, I no, Jenny couldn't do it, but Teal can.
Yeah, Teal's built for this and Teal's doing it. So I'm going to stop the share.
Teal is definitely built for this. And that's the amazing thing. I think that people, if you take something away from this that we haven't directly said, it's like you don't become your chart. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you cannot even know this and you will be living this
Yeah.
because it's that part has kind of been set up. The nuances of it can look different depending on who you are and what I mean, like you can be in the contracted state or you can, level up and out and expand.
Hmm?
And she's expanded really hard energies in some instances. Some people, crisis and conflict consume them and they never phoenix.
Yeah, well said.
She's
And
she's phoenixed.
to
Yeah.
your point about you aren't trying to fit yourself into this map. It's the
Mm-mm.
echo of how you're originally designed. So
Yeah.
why not use what works best for you so that you are out of that loop of sampling and buffet styling your life and just get to the best lane for yourself, your optimal, unsuffering self.
Yeah.
Leave your
Listen to you.
legacy.
That's what 4 6s are big on legacy, I think. I've come to think if you have a 6 in your chart, I see those people as being pretty hot for legacy.
I
Um,
would say that she definitely is a lot like me in the sense of I want to bring the future now. So,
yeah,
because the past is not working for us and we keep bringing that into the now. So, let's
right.
try the other side of the polarity in the line. Yeah, if you are curious, do go check out a few talks on YouTube. She has some pretty interesting topics and has the quote unquote very lunar, very moon-like audacity to be profoundly wise and prolific and almost a little prophetic with if we all woke up, this is what we'd all be thinking. But let me bring it down to you. Let me go up to the mountain and steal the fire. And now you can all use this to stay warm and bear light and cook. And I've awakened you into less fumbling and stumbling in the dark and more thriving. Get out of that survival gear.
Yeah. Which is, like I said, the choice she made with all that crisis and conflict energy and just alchemized it really beautifully. Yep.
Jenny, thanks. This has been such a fun series, and I
I
say that to
know.
those of you who have stayed with us and are either watching us a la carte or watched it all in a sequence. And you know that you can get a hold of both of us, that we are available for different ways of working with you to help decode your stars and get you into
Exactly.
your optimal life, your best lane, and of course, your original design. You can work with us as a discovery call. You can work with us as a single session. You can do a series because that's what we're here for. That's why we do this.
I know. And look below for all the details. And plus comment like what you think. Love
Mhm.
to hear. We'll reply back to anyone who comments.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you, Jenny.
Absolutely. See you guys later.